Good afternoon. My name is Connie Holland, and I'm going to be placing this video into my presentation at the beginning to let you know a little bit about myself and tell you about what I'm going to be presenting today. Had a little trouble with the video portion and implementing it into my whole entire PowerPoint. So this will give you the opportunity to see me and for me to tell you a little bit about myself and this presentation. This presentation is on long-term care. It's for session 4 for my healthcare delivery systems class. This presentation hits close to home because my grandmother, who had Alzheimer's, passed away at the age of 93, and about 10 years before she died, she was placed into a long-term care facility. This situation caused a lot of problems or friction in my family. My mother wanted to take care of my grandmother and keep her in her home, but she was unable to do it because she didn't have the finances to do so. So as a collective effort, all my aunts and uncles got together and decided that they would place her into a long-term care facility that was approximately 20 miles down the road from my aunt. So my grandmother had lived next to my mother for approximately 20 to 30 years, maybe longer. And I lived next to my grandmother when I was there in my hometown. And it really was devastating for my mother when she moved away and moved into the healthcare facility. It just shows me that I feel that it's very important to have a plan in place before it gets to that time, so people know what's going to happen and there's no surprises, because I think that that was part of the problem or the issue that my mother had, was she didn't know what was going to happen. I guess she always assumed that my grandmother would go and move in with her and she would take care of her until my grandmother passed away. So that's what my presentation is, a long-term care presentation, and we'll be discussing the different types of funding for long-term care. Thank you. Funding options for long-term care. There are several different types of funding for long-term care. They usually fall into the categories you see here. You have government funded, which consists of Medicare and Medicaid, and then you have state funded. State funded usually works along with Medicare and Medicaid, but there are states that have their own funding for long-term care, and there's different types. It just depends on which state you fall under. Then you have your private sector funding. Usually private sector funding is done well in advance of the need for long-term care, and some of the categories that fall under that could be insurance or investments that are made to provide later on when someone's in need of that care, and we'll discuss that later on in the presentation. The last is your faith-based care plans. This also falls under private sector funding, but these are very popular now because it deals with being a part of a community of like-minded individuals, and there's other perks to these types of plans as well. Now we're going to discuss some programs that are funded by the government for long-term care. The first area we're going to talk about is Medicare, and it pays for some of the medical cost. It is a health insurance program, and it's for people age 65 and older, and for all people with late-stage kidney failure. It also pays some medical costs for those who have gotten SSD, which is Social Security Disability. We're going to talk about that later on, and that usually happens after 24 months of care, and it does not cover ongoing personal care at home, assisted living, or long-term care. You have two types of Medicare. You have Part A, which is your hospital cost. It covers your hospital cost, and it also can cover your short stays in nursing home, but this is basically, when this happens, is when you have had some type of surgical procedure or there's some reason why you need care right after a stay in the hospital. And Medicare A will cover some of this. Would also cover hospice care in the last 6 months of life. Medicare Part B, which is basically going to cover your outpatient care, and it also will cover some of your preventive care, such as flu shots, diabetes screening. It also covers some prescriptions as well. Then we move on to Medicaid, which is your dominant source of payment for long-term care, with government funded, because most funds come from out of pocket. Most people pay for it out of pocket for any type of long-term care. But if it's going to come from the government, this is the source that it comes from. It is usually provided to low-income people and families, and it covers the cost of medical care and some types of long-term care for people who have limited income. And there are eligibility requirements for Medicaid, and it's different depending on each situation, depending on the state as well. The next area we're going to talk about is Program of All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly, which is also known as PACE. This is, some states have PACE. This is what I was talking about before. You have your state-funded programs too that help with long-term care, and they vary from state to state. Not all states have this program, but it provides care and services to people who otherwise would need care in a nursing home. The PACE covers medical, social service, and long-term care costs for frail people. It may pay some or all of long-term care needs of a person with Alzheimer's disease. It PACE permits most people who qualify to continue living at home, so it provides that care at home. And like I said, this is from state to state. Not all states have this program, and it usually works in conjunction with your Medicaid or Medicare. You have State Health Insurance Assistance Program, which is also known as SHIP. This is a program that's offered to each state that provides counseling and assistance to people and their families on Medicare, Medicaid, and Medicare supplemental insurance. So this program, you can go in and get all the information you need to know about eligibility for Medicaid or eligibility for Medicaid and long-term care. This is the assistant program that you're going to need to go to get that type of information. The next area is the Department of Veterans Affairs. Of course, everyone would not qualify for this. The first eligibility requirement for this type of government-funded care would be to be a veteran. But depending on the situation, there are other eligibility requirements to take the funds from this type of program. It does provide long-term care for some veterans, and just like I said before, you would have to be eligible. And just because you're a veteran does not make you eligible for the service. You would have to go to the Veterans Affairs Caregiver Support page, and they would give you could get information on whether or not you are eligible for this program. The next area we are going to cover is Social Security disability, which is what we discussed earlier. This is for individuals who are disabled under the age of 65. There are those that receive disability because they have something that keeps them from being able to function and earn an income. So once they receive this SSD, they might possibly be eligible for long-term care, depending on their disability. The next area is the National Council on Aging, which is the NCOA. This National Council on Aging is a private group and has a free service called Benefits Checkup. This service is great. So what you go in and you put all your information in, what your situation is, and it's going to give you all the information on what different types of programs are available to you. It's really a great website. You just go in there and put in your Social Security number, and they'll ask you a few questions, and based off those questions, it'll move you along into it will move you on to a different area depending on how you answer those questions, and that can be found at benefits.gov. Now we're going to move on to your private sector funding. The first area we're going to cover is your long-term care insurance. It covers many types of long-term care and benefits. It also includes hospice care as well. The exact coverage, it just depends on the type of policy you buy and then what services are covered. So you'll know that when you purchase the actual policy itself. Many companies sell long-term care insurance. It's a good idea to shop around, and you're going to want to compare your policies because they're not all the same. You need to buy, if you're buying long-term care insurance, it could be a good choice for younger, relatively healthy people at low risk of needing long-term care. costs go up for people who are older. So once again, it's important that you plan ahead. It seems sometimes, a lot of times, it seems like it's not important at the beginning because you're not thinking about you getting older, but it eventually, of course, it happens. The next area is reverse mortgages for seniors. You see a lot of this on TV, a lot of advertisements for this on TV. It's a special type of home loan that lets a homeowner convert a part of the ownership value in her home into cash. It's not like a traditional loan. There's no repayment is required until the borrower sells a home. So you don't have to worry about making a payment until the home is sold. And no longer uses it as the main residence or dies. There's no income or medical requirements to get a reverse mortgage. So that's really good because you don't have to worry about, most insurance companies you're going to have a health assessment or some type of exam before they determine the eligibility for those types of programs. But the reverse mortgage does not require that. If you have an existing mortgage or other debt against your home, you must use the funds to pay off those debts first. So the next area is life insurance policies for long-term care. Some life insurance policies can help pay for long-term care. Some policies offer a combination of both life insurance and long-term insurance, so you can get both at the same time. Policies with an accelerated death benefit, they provide a tax-free cash advances while you are still alive. So you're able to get money out of those types of policies while you're still alive, and you can benefit them before the death. So you would benefit it from it besides those loved ones that had to take care of you. You can get accelerated death benefit if you live permanently in a nursing home and need long-term care for extended time. So this allows money, frees up money to be available to take care of you if you're in a situation where you need that money or that finances to take care of you. If you have a life-threatening diagnosis such as AIDS, this can also cover you as well. Basically, you can get money out of it to take care of those issues before, if you are terminally ill. You may be able to raise cash by selling your life insurance policy for its current value, and of course, this cash can be utilized, excuse me, for your care as well. A similar arrangement called a viatical settlement allows a terminally ill person to sell his or her life insurance policy to an insurance company for a percentage of the death benefit on the policy. This option is typically used by people who are expected to live 2 years or less. So once that you are diagnosed with that illness, that the possibility that you die within the 2 years, then this option would be available to you, and you would be able to have immediate cash on the spot at that time. The next area is using annuities to pay for long-term care. You can use this to enter into an annuity contract with an insurance company to help pay for long-term care services. In exchange for a single payment or a series of payments, the insurance company will send you an annuity, which is a series of regular payments over a specified period of time. There are two types of annuities in regards to long-term care, and those are immediate ones, and then you have deferred long-term care annuities. And then the last area in regards to the private sector funding we're going to talk about is a trust. This is a legal entity that allows a person to transfer assets to another person, called a trustee. You hear this a lot of time as far as holding on to money and then having a person have it whenever they need it. Once a trust is established, the trustee manages and controls the assets for another person or another beneficiary. You may choose to use a trust to provide flexible control of assets for an older adult or person with a disability, which can include yourself or your spouse. There are two types of trust that can help pay for long-term care services: charitable remainder trust and Medicaid disability trust. So, for example, if you were the person taking care of someone, you would be the trustee, and you would take care of that money and based off of the funds that they were available to them, and you would make sure that the money got to their long-term care or was provided for their long-term care. Next, we're going to talk about your faith-based programs. These fall under the private sector programs. They encompass a lot of the same programs as your secular programs do. A lot of they offer the same things. The first area we're going to discuss is your faith-based retirement facilities. These are widely popular because often they're considered to be an extension of your church family. It also We also know that a large portion of people over the age of 17 or 70, excuse me, and consider themselves to be Christians. So to be in an environment where you're around people who have the same values and morals as you do can be beneficial. We also know that there's power of religion and health. A lot of people believe that the combination of uh, care by a provider, also the belief in the power of God to heal, go hand in hand. And so, being in a facility where this is a belief, then it's very important to the individual who is having care provided for them. Also, usually these facilities have providers in them that are Christians as well. Actually, they are Christians if they're going to be working at these facilities. And a lot of people in these types of situations, they want to be able to speak with someone on a religious basis about their care, about their terminal illness, and with someone that believes the same way they do, that believes in God. Also, in these facilities, they cover assisted living. These faith-based programs, they cover assisted living. They also recover retirement living. They recover hospice, memory care, and other programs. So you can find faith-based programs in any of these types of living areas or environments. So if you have to, for example, have to have care done at home, there are programs that are faith-based that bring individuals that are Christians that will come into your home and have the same ideals and morals that will care for the individual that needs to be cared for. And that's the same goes for your hospice care and your memory care as well. The next area of faith-based programs that's popular that is faith-based retirement plans. These provide investment knowledge and stewardship tools and encourage active engagement and present a future stewardship of issues. So retirement plans on how to invest your money and be able to have the money to prepare yourself for long-term care. And there are different types of retirement plans, but that's the foundation that is used for these types of programs. Basically, all they do with these retirement plans is they are very similar to your secular plans as well, and they just enhance them with Christian values and a perspective from the Christian values. Approximately 14.1% of the population today, that's 1 in every 7 Americans, is age 65 years or older. That's 44.7 million people. By the time we hit 2040, there should be 21.7% of the population will be 65 years or older. So what does that mean? That means there's going to be a greater need for long-term care, and it's going to continue to grow. And with that long-term care, or the need for long-term care, the cost of it's going to go up as well, because as you get older, there's going to be need for more different types of medical care. So hospital cost, or the additional time that someone may be in an assisted living facility, or the need for that continued health care. Most funding for long-term care actually comes from out of pocket, but if you're talking about government funding, that usually comes from Medicaid. We talked about some different plans or programs that are in different states. They usually work hand in hand with Medicaid or Medicare, but each individual state has their own eligibility requirements, and you would have to look up at the requirements for them, and that includes Medicaid too, to be able to be eligible to use Medicaid for long-term care. You would have to be eligible, and that depends on what state you are. The eligibility requirements differ from state to state. Long-term care spending includes formal and informal care. So the amount of money that is being spent on formal and informal care is combined together. If you look at this number here below, it says that $346 billion will be spent on long-term care by the year 2040. And that's from all sources. You're including your assisted living facilities and also from your informal care, which is done within the home. So I know that there's a lot of legislation trying to go into play so that individuals who are taking care of their people or elderly at home or they're disabled at home, they might be able to receive funds to be able to do so. Because if they're not able to financially take care of that individual, they may end up having to put them in a long-term care facility where at that point, then the government would have to provide funds for the care of that individual. A useful site is www.longtermcare. It gives you all types of options for care and what's available out there. But they also have the website too, benefits.gov, and that shows you exactly what's available to you from the government. And then we discussed earlier in the presentation to a couple of websites that you can go into for one of them is called Benefits Checkup, and you can go in and put all your information in there, and they're going to give you the programs or what options you have available to you or for your loved one as well. So basically, for all these care plans, the best thing for you to do is plan ahead. As I can already, you can already tell by this. If you have a plan, there's no surprises, and you can prepare in advance. And when it comes time, you'll be ready to provide that care for your loved one, or that care can be provided for you as well. Pre-planning is best.